Time to kill is a really important concept in games, especially in first-person shooters. Games like CSGO and Valorant promise you one headshot kills on most weapons, not in Paladins. So in Paladins, it's gonna take about 2 seconds for anyone to kill you except tanks. Now this number isn't always 2 seconds. Here, let me show you one example of a 1 second kill. And that was a 1 second because the punch can actually happen instantaneously after a shot. Like this. Now it's not consistent, which is why you see most Andrews not trying to do that, because the punch actually locks you out of using abilities. There's this red overlay over your abilities when you're punching, and that lasts 1 full second. So if you miss or time it wrong and don't get the finishing blow with it, you're just gonna die because you punched. Now, you shoot 2 times per second on this talent, which is what you should be playing, and that deals 1200, while a punch will deal just 520. So that's less than half the value. Of course, it's not gonna use ammo, and there's even cards that can help you regen ammo by punching someone. But that's not the topic of our discussion right now. We're just gonna be talking about the time to kill. Now, in the description, I'm gonna put a link to a tier list that should not be read as a tier list. I did not take the time to actually organize them correctly. So there is gonna be some weird things like champions being a lower tier or higher tier than they should be, because it's not an actual tier list. I just didn't have a better medium to put these numbers in. So basically, we're gonna discuss the advantage of having a Hitscan champion over a Projectile champion. And we're not talking about console here, because on console, there are barely any Projectile champions that are ran in there, because it's much easier to track your targets and hit them with the aim assists if you're a Hitscanner. So let's go ahead and talk about the difference. Now, Projectile champions cannot deal headshot damage. Let's go ahead and switch to Maeve, for example. And it doesn't matter, we're just not in... I'm gonna pick a loadout right now. So, no headshot damage whatsoever. So, what makes this an important factor in knowing when to not run away? Now, Maeve will take 3 full seconds to kill you, because she needs 3 sets of daggers, which is 6 daggers. And that takes 3 full seconds. Meanwhile, on the other hand, if you're hitting every shot as Victor, and she's not using her VR cards, which she's gonna be using in real games, you're actually gonna win against her. If you add the nade, you will win against her if you hit the nade, which is why good Victor players cook the grenade by holding Q. So the idea is, if you know that your time to kill is faster than theirs, then just keep fighting. As a matter of fact, here's a little tip. If you can make them miss 1 shot on flankers, you just gained half a second to a full second. So if they miss once, you should win, and most damage champions will have a higher fire rate. So for example, Victor or Vivian, and thus they can miss a little bit more than a flanker can. So Maeve, if she misses 2 daggers, that gave you 1 full second to kill her. Okay, so what about the advantage and not the disadvantage of running Projectile champions? Now for this, I'm gonna need to go and pick Cassie. So let's go ahead and change to that and show you an example that's seen nearly every day. Now people play Impulse on Cassie most of the time. Exaction does work, it's good, and Big Game is the talent to go to if you want to kill Rom, for example. So there are no bad talents on Cassie, but I'm gonna be showing you Exaction, and I do not recommend learning Cassie by using Exaction. Use Impulse as your training wheels, it's much easier. So how fast can you burst down Victor with Cassie? We're gonna need to explain why we're picking Exaction here on our time to kill. Now, we're gonna also cover impulse, but we need to go over this first because it has the lowest possible time to kill on Cassie. It's not always gonna work like that in real games because you can miss, and if you miss, then that's too bad. And impulse, well, it's a blast shot. It has some radius. You have a kind of a chance to hit anyway. So let's go ahead and pick Exaction, and we're not gonna concentrate on the loadout right now. And if we roll, and then that takes 1 second after the roll because we start counting from the moment that the first shot actually happens. So shot, last shot, and disengage, and one more shot. So the only time that you've waited is actually 0.75 seconds. However, disengage has a very short delay of about 0.2 seconds on it. You can't shoot after disengage immediately, like this. If you've seen the red overlay that appears, we can't do anything for a little bit of time. Now, this isn't the case with blast shot. Look at this. I just used one shot and the blast shot together. So keep this in mind when you're playing Cassie. You can use both of your main weapon and blast shot at the same time. Now, impulse has a problem. I'm not going to demonstrate that it has 1.5 seconds. I'm just going to show you that it takes one more shot. So left mouse button, blast shot, another shot, and disengage. And if anyone breathes on him, sorry about that, he's gonna die. Okay, so basically, projectile-based champions use cooldowns and abilities to reduce their time to kill. Now, we've shown that Andrew can do that with the punch. He's kind of an exception to that. Now, this is where an item like Chronos might be seen in a guide. Now, not necessarily on Cassie. Cassie guides tell you to max out cauterize, and if the enemy has any shields worth your time, buy Wrecker. And then you can buy other items, such as Chronos, which do in fact increase your end game damage output score. Yes, they do. So, for example, why is Chronos possibly good late game? I'm going to show you the thing that I'm using here, Exaction, and this talent, which has this card. Reduces the cooldown of your dodge by 4 seconds if you hit a shot right after the dodge. Okay, so dodge 7 seconds, and then it got reduced. So, if I buy Chronos, much like the Grover video, this is a non-flat cooldown reduction. If I dodge, shoot, I almost have it instantly. It's not instant, there's a little bit of time you have to wait, but you can do something like and be annoying. Now, of course, games aren't gonna last that long that Cassie is gonna be like, I have Cauterize 3 and Chronos 3. So maybe you gotta keep this in mind. Tier 2 is enough if you wanna do this. It's just a little bit slower. So keep in mind that you need to look up guides per champion. Now, the most damaged champion that gets value out of Chronos is Imani. And not because of any talent or any loadout she has, but because her cooldown on her Inferno Cannon and Frost Bomb is 18 seconds. Now, this ability alone can kill a Squishy if you hit it from start to finish. Now, Chronos cuts down 1.8 seconds off of that. And you have cards that are non-flat cooldown reduction that good Imani players actually might not run at all because their value is questionable, really. So look up guides and see if Chronos reduces your time to kill or not. Now, in the description, the tier list does have multiple time to kill per champion, and that's because there are combos. The guide might interest you in learning a certain champion just because their time to kill can be low. So check that out if you are looking to main a damage or a flank champion. Or maybe even perhaps you want to look at Khan or Ruckus. Now, I don't recommend Ruckus for new players whatsoever, but he can work and can dive any squishy and kill them in about like 1.5 seconds or so. I don't remember the numbers. You can check them down in the description below. I hope you enjoyed this, and good luck in enjoying your games.